Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with mysticgenmara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight I want to introduce you to not fully a creature, but not fully a deity. We're going to go along with myth and tarot tonight, but we're going to discuss the Naga. And this is from the Hindu myths and legends. So, we'll go ahead and dive right on in here. If you're new and you're just joining and watching replay or live, if this is the type of content, learning about ancient myths, legends, or people from spiritual history, go ahead and subscribe, drop a like on the video, leave comments, let me know who else you want to talk about, what other creatures you want to talk about, because this is hopefully a building series that I'm working on. So, on to the Naga. The first time that I heard about this being was when I started to really delve into Hindu spirituality, Hindu religion, and a lot of their myths and legends that go back according to history, about 5,000 years, give or take a century. And it was not something, to be 100% honest with you, that I originally liked. Still not a big fan. It's not a entity that I will work with personally, just because of some characteristics of it that I'm not a big fan of. And that's a personal thing. But I've come to understand more about these divine or semi-divine beings. Depends on which culture you're in as to whether they're fully gods or if they're just demigods. And so I'll be switching back and forth between divine and semi-divine or demigods and gods. Just depends on who's being referenced or which culture. So I wasn't interested in the Naga to begin with. And there's a reason for this. The reason is they're associated with the king cobra, or any of the associated cobra family of snakes. Not a big fan of snakes, so I kind of poo-pooed them, pushed them off to the side. Wasn't one that I really wanted to delve into. It wasn't something that caught my attention because of the association with them. But over time, you really can't dig through Hindu myths and legends very deeply without running across the Naga. They're kind of everywhere in some way, shape, or form. And so, finally, begrudgingly, I just decided, fine, I'll do it. So I started looking into them more. And the interesting about them is they're usually half human and half serpent. The serpent half is almost always a cobra. They spend the majority of their time in the spirit world, but make forays into the land of man on a random occasion, sometimes when they're summoned, sometimes when they need to because something that we as humans are doing are making them very upset. But when they do, they sometimes will appear as a gorgon from Greek myths, the woman with the snake hair, or as they'll have snakes just kind of draped around their neck sometimes. Sometimes they'll show up as a full cobra, and if you are not sure what a cobra is, oops, I hit the wrong button. There we go. King cobra. Very, very unpleasant thing. But they can show up as this, or they can show up as, why do I keep doing that? These, bloody hell, as these guys. So these particular ones, where am I at? Over here. Have 2 heads, 5 heads. There's a Buddha sitting inside of the cape of the Naga, and then there's one with 3 heads going across. So they tend to have a more fearsome look to them. But they tend to spend their time, like I said, in the spirit world. Make that go away. And when they appear, it can be terrifying, but they can show up as a half. Let's see if I have that one here. Oops, too far. as a half human, half serpent, as with this one, where it's kind of a beautiful woman, but she has that cape of the serpents coming up behind her. So this is actually an image of a Naga, Nagini, a female Naga. Interesting name, by the way. Think about it if you think you may have heard that before, because I guarantee you probably have. Anyway, the Naga appear in various South Asian spiritualities. It's oddly enough not exclusive to Hindu. They appear in Buddhism and Jainism. Don't know not a lot about Jainism. I've read across it a little bit. I understand Hindu and Buddhism better, so I'm going to stick with those two just for my personal being comfortable with it or familiar with it. So there's some fun terms that are associated with the Nagas. A female Naga, doesn't matter which one, royalty or standard Naga, is called Nagini. If that sounds familiar, you might check out some Harry Potter movies or books, because Nagini is also the name of a creature in there, but that creature's definitely evil. The king of the Nagas is called the Nagaraja, and this is a royalty of a clan of the Naga. The Naga, from what I have dug up and rooted around, there's actually a couple of different classes. I think there's like 5 different clans. Each one has a Nagaraja and a queen Nagini that basically rule the rest of them. They have names, and I apologize because the names of the known Naga, the ones that have made themselves known, are exceptionally tricky for me to say. There's there's a queen that's called Sesha, and that one's easy. But some of the other ones, they have letters and consonants in orders that I'm not used to because I don't speak any of those dialects. So if you wish to look those up, there's plenty of them out there. It's just because I can't say them very well, I'm not going to embarrass myself today. So, but in almost all of the myths, when the Naga show up in their half-human or fully human form, their beauty is exceptional, is the way it's referred to. They stand out from the crowd because they are so much more perfected in the term of beauty than the average. So even if they're walking through a crowd, they are going to stand out because they are going to naturally be that much more than the rest of the crowd. It's kind of interesting when you look through some of these ancient myths. Also, the term Naga, just because the way the dialects work over there, can be used to describe just a common cobra. But there's other names for cobras and snakes in those cultures, so Naga is not an exclusive term to snake. It's also not an exclusive term to a deity. It is a type of word that you have to look at how it's used in the sentence. So the structure of the sentence is going to imply whether it's a common cobra, common serpent, or if it's actually the semi-divine entities. I keep getting news alerts. Sorry. It's on silent, but the light flashes on. And so, back to the myths. The race lives in the spiritual realm, as I've said before, or some cultures have them living in a subterranean realm, underground. Whichever it is, it's a realm that is said to hold gold and natural riches. So gemstones, iron, copper, things like that, the precious metals, precious gemstones. And there's some legends that have them acting as a guardian of treasure, which sounds a lot like what we would call in the West the dragons and their hordes. And there are some crossovers in, I believe it's in Thailand, where they see the dragon and the Naga as an interchangeable phrase or word or concept. So they have kind of a bleed over between dragons and Nagas in, I believe it was Thailand and some of the island countries down there. And this could be because there was such a heavy spice trade through this area. There could be a crossover between the East and the West through all of this. So that's a little bit of a blurring of lines, so to speak. So in most of the Hindu culture, Nagas are associated and related to various bodies of water, be they ponds, rivers, lakes, waterfalls. Generally, there is a Naga associated with it. There was actually some documented footage that I watched a couple years ago, and I couldn't find it, or else I would have linked it in the description. But it had this one river, and there's so many rivers that are associated with Nagas it's hard to keep up. But there was one river in particular that is believed even today to have a Naga that swims up and down the river. And they showed some of the video footage, and these were kind of halfway research scientist type people, but the way this one particular channel of this like stream ripple would occur, it wasn't a natural occurring. Like when you watch it happen, it didn't look natural, and it would go up the river, and then a few hours later it would come back down the river, almost like there was something underneath the water that was moving and basically monitoring the river. But the rivers in this area are so consistently muddy all the time because they have weird currents that you couldn't see what it was, and radar doesn't pick anything up, sonar doesn't pick anything, not radar, sonar doesn't pick anything up. So it's kind of a weird little anomaly, and the people in the local community say that when it swims by, that's when the Nagas are swimming, and it is a time to worship or time to ask for favors, like a petition of some sort. So this is still, even in today's culture, the Nagas are very real to some of these cultures, which is kind of cool, actually. They are, in their snake form and in their half-snake form, they are classified as a venomous creature. Sorry about that. But they are in general classified as positive beings. They're not dark or evil in most myths. There are a couple of myths I did see where they were a little bit more violent, but then when you dig through it a little bit more, their violence comes from an injustice that they felt was incurred against nature, against them, against one of the deities they protect, because that's one of their jobs. A lot of the times Nagas are associated with Shiva, one of the top male deities in Hindu myths. They tend to hang out with the positive gods in these myths. They are seen with their capes and their heads around Ganesh, the elephant-headed god. They tend to surround, like Vishnu is another one. They tend towards the positive, the uplifting, and the helpful. They are in these positions because they're known to be protectors. When they decide to become aggressive, it's ruthless, it's to the point, and basically you want to just get out of the way. It can be pretty intensive. One Naga, and this is the one that's associated with Vishnu, and I will try to say this name and not sound goofy, is Naga, and it is the one that was like will hover around Vishnu. There are legends where Vishnu, as he's meditating, starts to levitate, and to cushion him and support the energy that he's building, Naga will actually coil underneath him and support him as he's levitating. He will throw his cape, because cobras have capes, up and around Vishnu so that he's never gets rained on. There's a lot of interesting myths associated and stories associated with, especially with the Nagas and Vishnu. Ganesha is another one that has a lot of Naga association. And when you look at the temples, for example, this is an example of Naga with Vishnu. But there's also, when you look at the temples, that's not the one I wanted. Where'd it go? I'm a wreck tonight, sorry. But this is another version of a Naga where they have them more in a dragon form. But they are protectors of temples and holy places as well. And so if you are feeling a little uneasy, that's something that you can use as have an amulet of a Naga. You can ask the Nagas to protect you as you're meditating, especially if you're following an Eastern path, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, one of those, because they're associated with that energy, and their goal is to protect those who are searching for enlightenment. There's one legend that I ran across recently that states that the Nagas, because they're not fully human, they're not fully divine, they're not fully animal, they want to achieve enlightenment. And they ask the Buddha, how do we achieve enlightenment? And the Buddha says, practice in this life all of the virtues of Buddhism, the 4 pillars, and really study, practice to be a good person, build the positive karma, so that way when you pass from this incarnation into the next, you can come into it in full human form or full animal form, which would allow for enlightenment. Because in that particular story, it's believed that because they're not fully human, they're not fully animal, they're kind of in a purgatory area, so they're not one, they're not the other, so they can't officially become enlightened because of it. Which, it's neither here nor there to me, because I feel like they're already kind of a demigod in their own way, so they should be well on their way to enlightenment, but you never know. The Nagas are known to be, according to all the legends, there's not one that I have run across that says otherwise, they're very cunning, they're very intelligent, and they're not so much tricksters as you don't want to lie to them. They will know immediately. Their intelligence and their cunning almost comes across as brutal at times, because they are so honest, they're so upfront. They're the type of person, if you ask them, does this outfit look good on me, they're going to tell you your feelings do not matter. So you definitely want to work with them as long as you are in an open state where you know where you're at, you know yourself, and you're okay with them maybe being a little bit more sharp-tongued with you. Just saying. So there actually is, even though they're a semi-divine demigod, however you want to phrase it, there is an enemy that the Nagas have, and that is the demigod, similar class, just different family, called Garuda, which is a bird-like deity. And this particular war is weird, because they are, just like in the Greek myths where the demigods, the kids of the gods, were always at war with each other, they are in this sense as well, but the difference is they're working towards becoming fully enlightened. They're not even looking to replace their parents, which is the Olympian problem. They just want to become, in their own way, enlightened. They want to achieve the Buddha consciousness, the Christ consciousness, this fully awakened state. And so they're at war because they each want to know what the other one's secrets are. It's a weird way to look at war in that time. And it's not like, some of their wars can get a little hostile. It's not as bad as some of the previous ones, though, that are in Hindu legend. One of the first references that you can find, if you want to go digging into this, about the Naga, is in the Mahabharata. The legend attributed to the 9th or 8th century BC. So these guys go back to some of the very first writings in Hindu mythology in India's spiritual past. They were seen as warriors and a massive pile of the conflicts in the Hindu myths. So basically, if there was a war and it was being fought on this planet amongst the Hindu deities, the Nagas were somewhere in it. And when you look at some of the ancient paintings and some of the tapestries that are from, centuries ago, they show up quite prominently. They're usually along the sides where the main ones are here, but they are there. And it's interesting because you don't think about it until you start looking at some of the rock carvings, the ancient texts, some of the art. All of a sudden you start to notice they really are everywhere. In some Buddhist myths, the Naga are water dwellers. They tend to, just like in the Hindu myths, be associated with bodies of water, lakes, rivers, streams, oceans, seas. But in some Buddhist myths, which is a little bit of a variation from the Hindu beliefs, they will see them residing in mountainous caves. In the Buddhist beliefs, they are connected to deities that guard the direction west. So they, in the Western belief, our beliefs in the more Western states or cultures, the West is associated with water, which also ties into the Naga belief. But in the European spiritual communities, the Wiccas, and associated occult that have come out of there, they also see the West as the gateway to the Summerlands, the gateway to the land of the dead type of a thing. So to have a deity that's a subterranean or underworld deity also associated with the West in the Buddhist belief lines up pretty well with the Western culture as well. So the Nagas are basically something that we can access as well without too much hiccups in how we practice any of our spiritual paths. The Nagas are there to protect. They protect from the main gods from minor enemies, and they are protectors of Buddhas as they meditate to achieve enlightenment. So if, like I said before, if you're working to try to get focused, work on meditation like transcendentalism and things like that, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have like a Naga statue or maybe even a ring, a necklace, something like that, where you can have that added help, if you will, to keep your mind focused, because what they will do is keep out the lesser energies, the distractions. So it's a way to support you in your path. So there are some legends that have the Nagas being underworld deities that are obscenely wealthy. The references were obscene wealth, perverse wealth. Like there's so much wealth that they have or have access to that it's beyond comprehension to a lot of the these old stories. Some of them, and this is an interesting one, especially when you see what's going on in some parts of the world right now, but they are seen as protectors of the environment. So people who blatantly do things to harm the environment, they will enact swift justice on those people. And there have been some myths and legends about, people who dump oil off of their boat on purpose into the water and their boat capsizes within 24 hours. No survivors. There's things like that you'll hear about, and it's kind of like, there might be something to those old stories about the Naga. So, moving on along some of these lines, let's have some fun Cambodia trivia. Random things that I found out researching here. Odd number of heads on a Naga represent masculine energy, and the even represents the feminine, with one exception. If the Naga has 7 heads on their cape or 7 heads coming off the main body, it means that they are, even though 7 is classified as a masculine number, in this case, they are focused on the physical world, mortality, and the earth in general, which in that culture associates with femininity. Whereas the odd heads for the other ones, 1, 3, 5, 9, etc., they symbolize immortality, infinity, timeless existence, and masculine energy. So you've got these 2 different clans of the Naga, or how to view them in Cambodia especially. And the Naga in this area, in a lot of cases, are much more similar to dragons than half serpent, half human beings. But their dragons are more of the Asian dragons, the long snake-like version. So there's this interesting little crossover that goes on between dragons and Nagas through these various cultures. So it could be that the Naga is just another way of another way that they would view the dragon, but it also could be an entirely separate entity. As I said, I don't work with Nagas. It's not something, just because of the snake issue. I'm not a big fan of that, but I work with dragons a lot, so I may have to find out from some of my guides and guardians what they think. But in this culture, the Naga and the dragon in Cambodia are kind of seen as similar, if not the exact same being. So, ways that you can use a Naga's energy are with talismans and amulets, such as a serpent necklace, the armbands that you'll see in a lot of Hindu dance, the coiled serpent around the arm. Those are representative in a lot of cases of the Nagas protecting that person. Generally it's a woman, but I have seen some men wear the armbands as well. But you also have ankle bracelets, you have pendants, necklaces, and if you have a pendant or a necklace that's a Naga based or any amulet based necklace, it's better to have it touching your skin, so it won't be worn outside of your shirt, it'll be inside, because the amulet and the stone work with your body's energy field to infuse it with that energy, so it does need physical contact. If it's a talisman, just a metal like one of the metal necklaces, you can wear it on the outside and it still works just as well. But there's something about the natural unprocessed energy that comes along with the crystals and the stones that it's better to have it closer to your skin. Side note. But you can use these necklaces, armbands, bracelets, anklets. Even there are some rings I've seen in the past. I haven't seen anything recent, just I haven't looked, that work with the Naga energy as well. So you can use icons or statues with the coiled Naga that can sit on your altar next to your computer if you're wanting the extra protection there, or even next to your bed so to keep you safe while you're dreaming. There are some coin Naga symbols that I've seen out there. The best ones would have to probably be picked up in person so you can get the vibe of them better, because each one's really unique that I've seen. So just something to think about. So another thing that I thought was interesting with the Nagas, because their association with water, is they also are seen in a lot of the Eastern cultures in the Orient, etc., as very potent healers. Their energy can be used with healing rituals. They're used as healing rituals today, so it's something to add maybe a little statue or something to your healing room if you are doing Reiki, just as an idea. Do a little research, do muscle testing, kind of find out if Naga energy is something you want to work with, because it can be a little intense, and there are some references. It's not too commonplace that I found. If you found something different, please let me know. But from what I have found with Nagas, there's a small group of people that work the Naga energy into the Kundalini that resides in your root chakra, which is the purpose of transcendental meditation, is to awaken it. It's the process of yoga, is to loosen the body's energy channels, to draw that powerful serpent energy up. And they call it serpent because it's coils. And so you have that view of the Kundalini as a coiled serpent in your root that has to be woke up and brought up to your crown, which allows your soul to awaken to full enlightenment. And even if you reach the point in meditation that until enlightenment will actually take you beyond your human form. So the quick glimpse that you feel is the start of the process, because it takes a lifetime in a lot of cases to fully awaken that and hold it open, because the kind of energy you're dealing with there is significant. So just something to think about. Interesting little note here, though. The serpent is a common theme in healing arts. The Naga, in some cases, is seen as the caduceus, the two coiled serpents that we use for a lot of our medical terms today. There's a few other places where you'll see the coiled snake as a part of the healing arts. And I find it ironic that there's so much association with serpents and healing, but the Christian view of serpents and snakes is that they're demonic. Although there is a reference in Numbers, I believe, where Moses held up a copper serpent on a pole because they were overrun with fire serpents, is what they referenced them as in the Bible, that were biting people and they were dying. But if they looked to the serpent, then they would be healed. So you've got a lot of this healing energy associated with serpents, but you also have a death energy associated with serpents. So you've got this balance. But Nagas tend to be on the healing side of things. So the Naga, since they protect the treasures of earth, are seen as good spirits to call upon for wealth, for career help, for trying to get you out of the poverty mindset, things like that. Nagas are good to support that. They are also good if you're struggling as protectors, because they'll lift their cape over the top of you with their heads and all that fun stuff. And the other part with wealth, because of the way the wording is in a lot of the texts, it's not just financial. That wealth could be the wealth of friendship. It could be the wealth of family. It could be the wealth of your physical health. So there's a lot of ways that the Naga can work with you in that sense of the word. Another one, especially the female Nagas, the Naginis, and if you're working with the Cambodian myths, you'll want a 7-headed one. They help you understand fertility. There is some reference to masculine Nagas working with fertility, but it tends to be more on the feminine side, being the supporter of the family, the one who bears the children. So you've got a little bit of a balance there. If you're a man, you should probably go with the male Nagas. If you're a female, you want to go with the Naginis. Just maybe go that route. So it's something also to think about as we are approaching the celebration of Beltane. And Beltane is May 1st, the last day of August through May 1st. It is a fertility rite. It is a fertility celebration. We'll discuss that in a future video. I won't get too into it. But if you feel some resonance with a Naga energy, might be something to bring in at that time if you're looking to increase fertility, hopefully, conceive, things like that. Again, this isn't medical, but this is historical and spiritual philosophy we're talking about here. So, what do you think about our little Nagas? Are they real? Just from a little bit of research here, there's not a lot. There's not like an actual picture of a Naga. It's not like the Loch Ness monster or anything like that. But do you think that there might be something real in the spiritual world that interacts with the physical? Would you personally call upon them to help you? And you don't have to answer, just some things to think about. And there are many names, like I said, in the Naga literature, but they're not that easy to say. So if you do happen to start to work with them, they might give you a name that's easier to understand. Like I said, for me, their names are difficult to say in the least, so I just choose to not go there because I have a hard time saying some of those names, and then I trip over them, and I don't want to disrespect them. Where'd that go? By saying their names incorrectly. Sorry, I need to get one more little thing. I got too many windows open here. Not like some streamers I've seen where if you ever see their computer, their entire top bar is nothing but little tabs open. I try to limit myself to, 4. So, now we've done the myth part. We've talked about the Nagas, their history, kind of what their purpose is, what their energy's like. Tends to be healing. They work with the elemental energy of water. They work from the direction west. So now we'll do part 2 of Myth and Tarot. We will do a tarot reading to get an idea of how the Nagas are working in the world in the moment, how the energy from them is interacting, what their energy is to the world, how the world's affecting them, all of that fun stuff. If you're interested in the deck that I'm using, it's a really awesome deck. It's based off of the Rider-Waite deck, but it's done in kind of a romantic Renaissance style. So you've got some more voluptuous people, some more flowing clothing, and you'll see here in a minute as we get into the reading about what I'm talking about. There may be points where I have to strategically cover parts of the card, because going along the vein of the Renaissance, modesty was not one of their strong points, just as a heads up. So if you see me having my finger across a part of the card, it's probably because there's something that YouTube would not be too happy about. So I am going to be doing, as my usual for this type of reading, just a simple, keep my deck in one spot, a simple Celtic cross reading because I want to. So we'll start off here with where they're at right now. So this is where the Naga is in the moment. It is the wheel. Major Arcana, these are life lessons. This is energy that works in big ways in your life in the moment. And the wheel is the cycles of time. So they are literally in a cycle of time period. My guides are saying that this is a time for the Nagas to start to rise back up into prominence. Their energy is coming forward into the world. It's a time of healing, and so their energy is being called forward. So as the wheel goes down, it starts to come up, and we're on the upswing for the Nagas. They're coming back in. There's some things that need to be dealt with in nature. Humanity as a whole needs some healing, and so that's what they're coming forward with right now. So they're bringing their gifts, their skills, and their knowledge forward. So this might be a good time if you're looking to work with some spiritual beings. This might be a time to introduce yourself to that particular clan. So that which crosses, the obstacles, the things that are in their way, we have the Four of Pentacles. So what's in their way is a little bit of frustration, a little bit of forced control. Things kind of are moving a little bit slow, a little bit of laziness, but there's also, like, in the past, the reason they were on the bottom part of the wheel is they were being pushed down. There was a cultural pullback, trying to get away from what people thought were superstitions, and now they're kind of coming back up. So there's this pushback against this, because the energy that's crossing them is pulling away from superstitious beliefs, pulling away from the myths and legends of the past. But the Nagas are on their upswing, so they're winning the battle, but they still have that to push through. So what's crossing them is kind of a lazy, apathetical view towards them as they're swinging on their upswing. So they've got some interesting energy working right off the bat, because they are trying to move forward, but there's this pushback of people don't really want to deal with it. They don't want to acknowledge their spiritual history, but you can't really push back on all of that. So let's look at their higher self, their higher guidance. It is number 3, the Empress. So we have another Major Arcana card. And the Empress is talking about a form of divine feminine energy. So the Nagas, especially the number 7, if you're going with the Cambodia numerology, is a feminine number. You've got this feminine guidance coming in. So they're coming forward to be healers. They're coming forward to help fix some of the things that have been screwed up. They're coming forward to try to comfort, to guide, and to birth the next generation of life, of healers, of spiritual growth. And being the maternal side, they're also coming through as protectors of the innocent and protectors of the infant. So you've got this protective feminine energy that's coming through from their higher self, and this guiding principle of growth and nurturing. So let's look at their subconscious self, their root of who they are. It is the Two of Wands. So they still have a little bit of innocent coyness that's going on. They've got this intellectual naivety where they still want to have the world be the way it used to be. They're kind of in their deeper selves. They're trying to figure out how to step forward as the wheel brings them back up in the circle. They want to step into this new world, but how do they do that? Because their world in the past was fairly different from what it is today, obviously. So there's this little bit of naivety, like, oh no, we can fix this, we can make it all better. But there's the balance of the Empress saying, we can, but we're going to do it in this way. So you've got this little bit of naive inner self that's they're very hopeful, but it's also that naive energy. And being wands, you have that a little bit of fire energy, so they're like, we want to do it, we want to make it all better, we want to fix everything, but they don't quite have a full grasp on what's happening just yet. In their past, we have, and this is a recent past, the King of Pentacles. So, the King of Pentacles is the end of the Earth. It's the end of the Earth cycle. It's the celebratory area before you move into the next beginning. And so in their past, they have had this kind of quiet period where they have reached the success of the past. That's as far as they could go for that moment. The cycle has turning, the wheel is turning, so now they're getting ready to move into a new beginning, and that's where they're at in the moment. Their past was kind of a relaxed, we've done what we can do, and now it's time just to kind of chill out, enjoy as far as we've come, things like that. But now they're getting ready to move forward. So their past was the recent past was kind of that celebration, we've done what we can do, it's the end of a cycle, and now they're moving forward into the new cycle. And so in the current time, the Nagas are experiencing a new beginning. So their immediate future is the Two of Pentacles, and this is moving forward into a bit more prosperous. There's some fertility that's coming forward. We have the Two, which is your duality of the masculine and the feminine, so you have this union of opposites. You have the light-dark balance that's coming forward. And it's also a little bit about, you know what, we'll get there. It's this planning period, so they're coming up. There's this new beginning that they're stepping into, but they're going to do a wise decision. They're going to plan ahead. They're going to look out for what is coming in the future so that they can make their future the best it can be. So let's look at the attitude, kind of where they're at in the moment. And we have the Two of Chalices. And this is another one, just a second, there we go. And the Two of Chalices is a relationship card. And we have the Two of Pentacles, which is a duality, building of balance and a little bit of connection, the union of opposites. But we also have the Two of Chalices, so the Two of Cups. It's not just a physical connection, because that's the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Chalices, it's an emotional connection. So as they're bonding with each other, they're bonding that masculine and feminine energy, they're also reaching into the human world again. The Nagas are reaching out. They want to build an emotional connection. They want to reconnect with humanity. The Nagas, from what I have learned over the years, they're not hateful to humans. They don't like some of the stuff that we do, but in general, they like us. And so this is their way of saying, we're connecting with each other, we're finding out more about our place in the world, and as we do that, we want to build allies, we want to build friendships with the realm of humanity. So let's look at the environment in which they're coming forward. They are coming into the number 17. It is the stars. Wow, that's a lot of Okay. Um, so as they're coming into this environment, it's this environment of endless possibilities. Count the stars, that's the possibilities. So they're coming forward, they're connecting with each other, they're reaching out to make connections back into our world in a more active physical way. And the possibilities, what they're telling me is endless. The possibilities that are coming through for the Nagas, it's really at the limit of their desire and our willingness to work with them. They're not going to force their offer of help on us, but they're reaching out, and the stars are saying you have this unbelievable connection, you have this unbelievable option. They're laid out in front of you, and there may be even some interstellar guidance coming through, because there are some beliefs that a lot of the high-level Hindu deities were actually otherworldly travelers, so the otherworldly travelers may be returning as well to support the Nagas as they're reawakening from their spiritual or subterranean realm. So the hopes and fears of the Nagas is the Five of Pentacles. Okay, enough with the pentacles. They're really being racy today. So the Five of Pentacles is really not one of the better cards. They have some sadness, they have some fears going on here. There's not a lot of hope that I'm getting the impression of. They have that naive subconscious push, that want to do better, that fire of let's do this, we can, that innocently marching forward energy. But the Five of Pentacles is there's a little bit of fear as to rejection. There's this little bit of fear as to the elder deities pushing back on them. There's also this fear that they may not be able to achieve enlightenment, they may not be able to help the next level of humanity uplift itself to Buddhist state, and so there's a little bit of that worry and fear there. The Five of Pentacles working with the earth energy, they're working to try to fix what's happened, but they're not sure if they can. So that's where their fears are, is knowing what needs to be done, but not knowing if they have the ability to do it. So the overall outcome for the Nagas, get rid of that, is the Three of Swords. So the Three of Swords energy is this partnership energy. They're reaching out to us as humanity and reaching out to the higher Hindu deities, Shiva, Shakti, Kali, Ganesh, Vishnu. They're reaching out saying, are we good enough? Are we, when they're reaching up, they're saying, are we good enough? Are we there yet? Can we move to the next level? When they're reaching out to us, it's, are you willing to work with us? Are you willing to acknowledge that we exist? Are you willing to hear us when we talk? Are you willing to maybe even build some connection in a physical sense, like having a familiar, if you want to call it that, or a spirit guide relationship with the Nagas? So the outcome is they are reaching out. They are opening the doors to friendship. They're opening the doors to their deities to come back. So there's this energy of expansion. They are wanting to reconnect with the world at large. So that's what their overall outcome is they're reaching out. And what is going to be your response? What is going to be the response of the ancient Hindu deities? Are they going to respond positively? I mean, when you look at the card, there's some indecision going on there. The tall lady here, she's not sure. And that's where the energy, there are two sides of the energy. They're reaching out, but the response they're getting is not sure. So, like I said, these readings are more for fun, but it's a way to kind of get a little glimpse into maybe what is going on in that particular creature or spiritual entity's energy at the moment. So with that, if you have any other questions, if you have comments, leave them below and I will respond to them as soon as I see them. I try to check in here about every other day or so, if not every day. We stream this series on the second and fourth Tuesday or Monday of the month, and generally the first and the third we have occult and crochet, where I talk about an occult person, talk about some of my crocheting stuff. I'm working on some lighting because right now I can't see to really crochet the stuff I'm working on at the moment because it's all small. But the threads, the yarn's small. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, drop them below. If you liked this video, please drop a like on it. Please subscribe if this is the type of content you're interested in. I also do on Tuesdays a variety of things. Sometimes it's a book review, sometimes it's an energy healing, sometimes it's a meditation. Just kind of depends on where spirit leads me. So I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your week and rest of your night. I will talk to you in a future video, and with that I will bid you adieu.